Hi guys, so next up in the season preview list, we got the Chicago Bears. So first we'll start with your coaching staff. Got Mandy Eberflus, third year. Their defense has been good. It's just he's helped get some talent, but it's just a matter of can their offense improve and can Kelly Williams their guy. So he's relying a lot on their new OC and Shane Rodgeren, former Seahawks OC for 3 years. So he had some good offenses. Hopefully that did help Caleb Williams develop and have a good rookie year. DC got Eric Washington, first year DC, former Bills assistant for 4 years. But before he went to the Bills, he had been with the Bears for since '08. So he's been as a coach. So he's been coaching for a while. He used to be a part of the Bears. Now he's back as a DC. So I said for the coaching staff, you got all right coaching staff. You got some new guy. You got two new coordinators, so that's gonna be a lot of change. But at least defensive wise, your Eberflus will probably keep a lot of the same stuff. It's just the coordinators are changing, and the offense can be a lot different. So next we go to the depth chart. As starter, you obviously got Caleb Williams, first overall pick. He's going to be your starter. Like like he won the former Heisman winner. He didn't have as good of a year last year as he did as Heisman winner. He still had a good year, but not as good. He had 3,000 over 3,600 yards, 30 touchdowns, only 5 picks, which is still good. But he had 100 less passes, and he was a good 3 year starter. One first year obviously was for Oklahoma. They benched Rattler, but then he transferred to USC and he was still good for Riley. He had over 130 yards each year rushing wise. It's kind of funny because his last year at USC, he even had a catch for 15 yards. There's his one catch for 15 yards. So he can receive. Then backup, got Tyson Bagent. He's a all right backup, but you can do better. But I feel like him and Brett Riffin, I don't know, battled out for the backup job. I feel like Bagent might not become the backup. They might put him on the practice squad for the third quarterback, if not carry him. But because Riffin's can be a good backup too, he's shown that. We had 5 games last year. Bagent had 859 yards and 3 touchdowns, 3 and 6 picks, which isn't great, but you weren't expecting much from him because he was a UDFA last year, so you weren't expecting much anyways. Yeah, and then I kind of already talked about Brett Riffin. He's a okay backup, and that's about it. But if Beijing can develop a little more and be a better backup than him, that's great. But I think it's got Austin Reed. Okay, he's another guy that he might go to practice squad just because he is a rookie, and teams always like to have extra quarterbacks because injuries do happen, and that's the most important position. But we'll see. They probably won't carry. He's definitely not gonna make the roster unless he comes out of nowhere, but he might go on practice squad. Then you go. Let's go to running back. You got DeAndre Swift. He had a pretty good year last year. Had over 1,000 yards, 5 touchdowns. But how much of that was because he was behind a great offensive line in the Eagles, and it's hard to touch because a lot of running backs have had good years behind the Eagles, and then struggled elsewhere. So just we'll see what happens. You hope he has another good year. The Bears have for the most part a pretty young offensive line, so they can get better. But right now, Bears definitely don't have a good nearly as good as defensive line as the Eagles did last year. So we'll see. And even the year before that, the Lions had a lot of talent on the offensive line. And he still didn't have a great year, but it was also because he was also splitting with Jamal Williams, who had a ton of touchdowns. And he has a decent receiver and running back, but he doesn't do it a ton. So yeah, then behind him we got Khalil Herbert. He's a pretty good backup. Like if he was a lot of teams, he'd be their starting running back. It's just like because he brought in DeAndre Swift, he's now your backup, and that's good. Like yeah, like he hasn't had great years, but he hasn't been bad either, and like he's done pretty good for a 6 round pick. Like, he's gonna get a decent contract next offseason from somebody. It probably won't be the Bears because they brought in Swift and they got Roschon Johnson behind him. But still, he's a he's deserved to be a starter somewhere. Behind him, you got Roschon Johnson. Like last year, he was kind of buried in the backfield. It's the same thing at Texas in college because he was behind Bijan Robinson. So he was never a starter in college either. So just like, yeah, they still had okay. Like for like a backup that barely played, he had a decent year. He had 81 carries, 252 yards, 2 touchdowns, averaged 4.3 yards a carry. He had 34 catches for 209 yards, so he had over 500. He had almost kind of close to 600 total yards. And yeah, as long as rush was 29, as long as reception was 24 yards. So yeah, then behind him, you got Travis Homer. Like, yeah, that he's okay. Like, is your fourth string? Who really cares? But like, he didn't play at all last year, so unless a lot of injuries happen, he shouldn't play this year either. So hopefully it stays that way. Then wide receiver, probably most likely your probably strongest guy group on offense. Like you got two pretty good wide receivers, assuming Allen stays healthy. Then you got a high end draft pick, a top 10 pick, so he could be good too in Rome Odunze. And like they're doing a lot better job than they did build around Caleb Williams and they ever really tried to do with Fields, which kind of sucks because they didn't have the greatest opportunities. Still, so we'll talk about DJ Moore. He had over 1,000 yards. He was easily Fields' favorite weapon, which he should be because like Keenan Allen and Roman Odunze weren't here last year, so like he didn't have much else. Like they made they made sure to get him in that first overall pick trade round. Like the Panthers could have really used him last year. But yeah, in 17, he played all 17 games, 96 catches for 1,300 yards, 8 touchdowns. Yeah, like he had that one game in fantasy where he went off and he was just crazy. I'm like going, I didn't have him in any of my leagues, so I'm like, thankfully I didn't have to face him in any of my leagues because, yeah. But he's been a good receiver ever since he came in. Like even his rookie year, like that was his lowest yards, and that was 788 with the Panthers. So yeah. So yeah, that's DJ Moore. He should be their main one. Then he also got Keenan Allen. He's another good wide receiver. He had some good year. He had a really good year last year. He didn't play all of them though later because he got injured near the end. He's dealt with a lot of injuries. Like he hasn't played a full season since 2019 because I'm pretty sure 2021 there was already 17 games at that point. I'm pretty sure, and like he's still been good, but like, can he stay healthy? And yeah, like doesn't matter how good you are if you can't stay healthy, because you just can't help your team if you're not playing. But he's still a good wideout. Like to have him as your number two, or potentially even number three, depending on how Dunze does his rookie year, but probably number two just to start off the season. So there's him. And then your third wideout, top 10 pick from this past year, Rome Odunze. Like to have him as your third wideout, that's crazy. I'm like, yeah, like most teams, if you're drafting a guy in the top 10 wideout receivers, you're probably having him be your starter. Think of a situation where even if Allen does get injured, he's not even your number one. He's still only your number two. and he's shown improvement. He's gotten better every year. He had 4 years watched, and he got better every year. He had more. His freshman year, his first year, he barely played. He only had 6 catches for 72 yards. So don't do that. Then he got over 400 yards his sophomore year. Then he went all the way up to 1,100 his third year. Then he got 500 extra yards, and because he had over 1,600, he had more touchdowns every year. Like, he's shown improvement, so that he likes to get better. Man, them at wide receiver, it's mostly developmental guys. Like, you got some recent draft picks, and Tyler Scott and Velus Jones, not great, but they're okay. Like, maybe a little bit get better. DeAndre Carter, he's more of a good returner at this point. You don't really want to touch the field as wide receiver much. Then you also got Dante Pettis, Colin Johnson, and Freddie Swain. I think if any of those guys make the roster, it's probably Pettis, and Colin Johnson's probably on practice squad, but still none of those guys are that good. But like, Pettis is a bust. Johnson, he hasn't done much of anything. Then those 2 guys behind them, they're not going to make the roster. So let's go tight end. Starting tight end, you got Cole Kmet. He's a great tight end. Like, he had 73 catches for over 700 yards and 6 touchdowns. Like, that's pretty good. Like, yeah, he's gone better. He's had a pretty good year. Like, yeah, like, as a tight end, that's pretty good. And behind him at tight end, you've got a guy like Gerald Everett. Like, to have him as your number 2 tight end, that's great, because he's okay number 1, but as number 2, he's great. So he's had some good years, but he's never really been that consistent. I think he had 51 catches for 411 yards and 3 touchdowns last year for the Chargers. And then he had a little better year the previous year when Herbert played the whole year, because you got to remember, Herbert didn't play all year. He had dealt with some injuries. Behind them, you get tight end. You also got Mercedes Lewis. He's just a great blocker. Like, you don't expect him to be catching, and you don't expect him to be much of a receiver at this point in his career. But there's a reason he's been in the league since 06. Like, because he's a great blocker, and that, like, guys like Aaron Rodgers loved him. So that's it. Then behind him, you got Stephen Carlson. He's not gonna make. He might go practice squad, but that's it. Like, yeah, like, you don't want. Nobody carries 4 tight ends on the active roster. But yeah, but he probably won't even make the practice squad. Then go offensive line. You got pretty young offensive line. Like, even I think your oldest is Ryan Bates, but it's either Ryan Bates or Davis, but I think it's pretty close, and even those guys aren't that old, so it's not like they're crazy old to be your oldest guy is on your offensive line. Like, yeah, he's only 27, so I think actually that might mean Davis might be a little older. So they're around the same age, but still, like, 20 Slimane says 28, because Davis is only turning 28 pretty early on this season, but still. And then left tackle, got Braxton Jones. He's a good player. He'll hopefully develop and get even better. He was a recent draft pick, so he's still ridiculously young. Then behind him, got Larry Borum, good backup. He's been a starter at times. They just obviously they haven't liked him a ton enough to not try to replace him, because they drafted guys to get ahead of him. Like, and then there's one of their 2nd round picks. They drafted Kieran Midikuji. I think I probably butchered that last name, but so he may not play. He obviously, I hope he doesn't play right away, but like, they're obviously not planning on Bourne being a good thing there much longer. Left guard, you got Chevin Jenkins. He's dealt with injuries. He's gotten better. Like, his rookie year, he was terrible, but he has gotten better since. Then behind him, you got some young development. You got Jerry Carter, young developmental guy. That's about it. Same with Jerome Carvin. center. You got Ryan Bates, like former Bills center. Like I don't think he started all last year because they had like he started in 2022, but I don't think he started for the Bills at all last year. So yeah, but like he was a good starter before that, and so you should be a good starter for them. Like you replace him with Cody Whitehair, which is I feel like it's not down not really upgrade, but it's not really downgrade either. It's around the same because Whitehair's dealt with a lot of injuries. Behind him, you got Coleman Shelton. He's played I think for the Rams a little bit, but he hope he doesn't have to start. Same with Doug Kramer, but he's just a young developmental guy. Right guard, got Nate Davis. He was a pretty big free agency signing from the Titans last offseason for him, but he didn't have a very good first year. Hopefully, he gets better and he goes back or he get to his Tennessee form because they signed him to a big contract for that. And yeah, and then we got Matt Pryor. He's bad. Yeah. And then you got Bill Murray and Theo Bensnett, younger guys that may make the practice squad. Right tackle, got their nail right. Another recent draft pick. Yeah, hopefully he'll develop and get even better. He should. So see what happens there. Behind him, you got Jake Curran, young developmental guy. Vontae Collins is your third string right tackle. That's fine, but you don't want him starting at all. So that's it for the offense. Let's go to the defense. Edge, first your best top edge rusher. Yeah, I was thinking Montez Sweat. Traded a second round pick for him. He was well worth it. He led. I think he was the first ever player, or if he isn't, he's pretty rare group to lead two different teams in sacks in 1 year because he led the Commanders and the Bears both in sacks last year, and he only spent half the season with each one, which is crazy. He's a great edge rusher. He is your number one. You're set right there. You don't have to worry about finding another number one. Then behind them you got Dominique Robinson. He's another recent a lot of defense line is recent draft picks that you hope develop and get better, but no, because you kind of need them to because outside of Sweat you aren't that good on the defensive line. Billings is all right, but yeah, same with Austin Booker and then Demiri Chroma. I haven't heard of him before. Sorry. Then defensive tackle, you get Billings. He's okay, but you hope you don't want him to be your number one defensive tackle. So you hope that Ron Dexter, Zach Pickens can break out and replace him. Yeah. Then I just said, you got your Ron Dexter. He was a second round pick last year. He's okay. He hopefully will break out as a second round pick. Yeah. But then behind them at defensive tackle, you got Zach Pickens. He showed he shouldn't really be playing yet. Hopefully he should give some more time to develop last year. Problem is they don't have really anybody at defensive tackle, so they kind of need him to play. And so yeah, he didn't do much. And the other edge rusher, you got DeMarcus Walker. You can get a lot better, but he was okay. Yeah, but as your number two, that kind of sucks because there's a reaching draft to try to get a lot of high draft picks to replace him. But at least he's not your number one. To my name, you got some more just recent draft picks to hopefully develop at this point. Let's go linebacker. These are your two starting linebackers are your two big free agent signings last year. You had a TJ Edwards and Tremaine Edmonds. TJ Edwards wasn't they gave the bigger contract to Edmonds, but Edwards ended up being better their first year at the Bears, so it's kind of funny, but that's how it works sometimes. So yeah, But that's a really good linebacker combo, the 1-2 between the two. Like, yeah. So you got Tremaine Evans. He had a really good he had a pretty good last year at the Bills, and like there's one of those things where like a lot of guys have good years or contract years just so they can get a big payday, which I think he can have a better year, but that kind of how it works, kind of how it happens. Behind them at linebacker, got Jack Sanborn. Like he had like around the same stats last year in 3 more games, yes, but it's not his fault. They literally replaced him. Like he's a yeah, like he's a really good number 3 linebacker in my opinion. So behind them, a lot of recent draft picks pretty much that helped develop like Aman Abigomia, Micah Bakerfield, and Noah Sua. One of them for sure makes the roster. One of the other two probably goes to practice squad, if not the both. Then behind them, we got Javon White, Paul Mola, and Carl Jones. They're not making the roster. Then let's go secondary. You're set at number 1 corner. Got a great number 1 corner, Jalen Johnson. And it sounds like he's not very happy. He didn't make the top 100 this year, but it's like that's not a huge deal because but still so he's gonna be going this year mad, and that sometimes makes players play better if they're pissed going into seasons. So yeah, and he's a pretty good. Then you got behind him, you got Jalen Jones, and Jalen Jones, he's all right. He's a developmental guy. Hopefully, he develops and gets. Or actually, he's there. He's a backup. Hopefully, he never has to start. Same with Rod Torrance. Then your other corner, starting corner, got Tariq Stevenson. He didn't have the greatest rookie year, but still, he's hopefully able to better. That's all you can really hope for because he didn't really he got him between him and Gordon that's about it hopefully you hope another other guys outside Jalen Johnson start because these him and Gordon recent second round draft picks so they should develop because they're still relatively young. So I'm pretty sure Gordon was a second round pick in 22. Let's just look. Yeah. So yeah, second round pick in 22. Yeah, this invest around that cornerbacks room, but yeah, outside of them, you kind of hope your top 3 don't get injured because you don't have great depth outside of them in any of them. And Jalen Jalen Jones is all right. Terrell Smith's okay. Greg Simmons, yeah, okay. It's but let's go to safety. They got John Brisker. He's done really good for them. Going into his 3rd year. Yeah, and now they got a good safety opposite of him, and Chick him and Byard, another good safety. He didn't have the greatest year up to his standards, but he still had a good year with Titans/Eagles. It's just the Eagles didn't want to keep him on that contract, so they released him. But he got a good contract, and hopefully he'll do good. And because another then behind them they got Jonathan Owens. He's a good backup. He's shown he can start on occasion with the Packers. Then you got Elijah Hicks and Tavarius Moore, Adrian Colbert. They're some are young and developmental guys. That's about it. Then Douglas Coleman and Quindell Johnson. Neither one don't make the roster. Maybe one of them goes practice squad. So that's it for their defense. So next, let's go to their special teams. You're doing all right, but you really cares. You got Carrier Santos. He's not a great kicker, but he's fine. Special teams don't usually make or break your team. So yeah, Donald Carter, he's a great returner. Velus Jones, he'd be a good punt kick returner too. He's shown he can be good on schedule plays like jet sweeps or stuff like that. So yeah, there's that. So next, let's go to their schedule. So let's get the preseason. So let's go to regular season. Titans, that should be a winnable game. Should definitely win that one. Texans are gonna lose that one, especially since it's in Houston, which also doesn't help, obviously. Colts, it's still winnable. You got like these next three games, like these next two games between them and the Rams. Those are two games you're probably gonna win one of them, but it's gonna be tough to win both because those are should be both good teams. Like they should both be playoff contenders. Got the Panthers, should win that one. Jags, should be a really good game. You're probably gonna lose. I feel like you might lose just because they showed they can be good start the year last year. So if you know get back on that, and it's in London, which the Jaguars love because they have a game in London every year. Got this week 7 bye. Got Commanders and Cardinals, 2 winnable games. Got the Patriots. You should win that one. I feel like they'll probably split. They're probably gonna split the Packers and the Vikings. Then they'll probably most likely they're gonna get swept by the Lions. Loss against the Niners, so yeah, they'll probably win the one at home against the Vikings. Probably lose against at the Vikings. I feel like they're gonna get swept by the Lions. Then you got the Seahawks. This should be a winnable game. Then you'll probably lose one at Green Bay. Okay, we'll see what happens. Like they don't have their schedule isn't crazy tough, but isn't super easy either. They do have some tough teams. And NFC North should at least have 2 playoff teams and the Lions and Packers. But we'll see what happens. And thanks for listening, guys. Have a good day.